The following is my conversation with Piet van der Velde. Piet is a veteran product developer and entrepreneur in the cycling industry. His journey is really fascinating, from his early days as a competitive cyclist in the Netherlands to becoming one of the industry's most respected product innovators, culminating in the founding of ERE Research, a premium components brand. Having worked with major brands like Specialized, Cannondale, Velo, Piet offers invaluable insights on how cycling products are conceived, developed, and brought to market. In the episode, we explore the challenges of building a premium brand from scratch, the importance of deep industry knowledge, and why the cycling industry remains uniquely resilient to outside business models. Whether you're interested in product development, entrepreneurship, or the inner workings of the cycling industry, this conversation offers a wealth of practical wisdom from one of the sector's most experienced voices. This is the Business of Cycling podcast. Piet van der Velde, thank you so much for coming on. We've been chasing each other for a couple months now. We had it scheduled, and you had the Taiwan show you were at?
Taichung Bike Week. Yeah.
So I guess I
Taichung
have
Bike
to ask you, what did you see at Taichung Bike Week?
Well, what did I see was nothing that special. It's a lot of extra new bicycle parts that you've been seen before, just in a different shape or with a different material. You meet new people in the industry. That's interesting. But more or less it's what you hear, not what you see in Taiwan. So we have to talk to people in this industry from all kinds of parts of the globe and from, of course, Asia themselves, how they experience the current period. And that's necessary to know. You have to be in the know in this industry in order to, also have a clear view and a clear judgment yourself. Yeah.
So when you go to an event like that, Piet, I haven't even introduced you yet. I was just curious about this, but we'll get to that. When you go
All
to an
right.
event like this, what are your goals?
Um, the event, I go to this event because I created it about 20, no, I think 17 years ago myself. I started Taichung Bike Week together with two other people. So now to go back and to see how big it's gotten and
Wait,
what
you started the event?
I started the event. Yes, I started. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll explain
Yeah,
in a short overview. Its event didn't exist, but back then I did some work for a company called W2B and Oval Concepts, and I was also working with Velo at the time. SRAM had an event in the Landis Hotel called SRAMination, and they did presentations for all the product managers, and they invited them to their, let's say, worldwide OEM product launch.
sure.
And they were the only ones in that hotel doing that. So, and we visited them because we had our own little presentations for W2B, and we thought, okay, listen, this can be successful for two companies. Why couldn't it be successful for a lot more companies? Because it's the right time, it's convenient, it's informal, it's not a big show that costs a lot of money. I mean, you're doing it in a hotel where people are staying. So you're basically renting a room in a hotel. I mean,
Sure.
how low key can you get? But an OEM product manager doesn't need all the
No,
booth
no,
and the logos
doesn't need
and the
anything
and the
fancy. No.
and the hospitality. Don't need anything fancy, just the prices and the new technologies. So what we did was I invited a few more companies that year. I invited ProLite, Steve Henton. I think it was Chinelli that we invited. And then we were there with Velo and Prologo. So we all of a sudden we had like five companies joining that. The year after that it was 10 companies. And the year after that we had the whole hotel, the whole Landis hotel booked full with like 30 companies. At that time, after 3 years, I moved companies. I left Prologo and started to work as a senior hard goods product director at Specialized. So I couldn't really pay attention to this anymore, and
Sure.
I gave it to Steve. And Steve lived and worked in Taiwan, and he was the right guy to pick it up
Kind of
and build it
take
further,
it forward.
take it from there. Yeah, and Steve really deserves all the credit for building it what it is today. And yeah, I'm just proud if I go back there and say, hey, that's something we started, and look what it is now. It's like 3 or 4 hotels, hundreds of people will be coming, and yeah, it was good. Yeah,
What's Steve's last name?
Fenton. Yeah,
Okay.
Steve Fenton.
So that's awesome. I love talking with people in the business because you really do learn a lot about how things kind of the genesis of different things. So I guess let's jump back and get to your story. So Piet, you're from the Netherlands, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
And maybe you can
absolutely.
just tell us a little bit about where you're from, what town you're from,
Um,
where you studied, kind of, and give people an idea of, your origin story.
yeah, sure, sure. I grew up in a working class family. My father had a electronic store selling TVs and radios and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he was an entrepreneur. I was a small boy with too much energy, so my mother said you have to go do sport. So they put me on judo. Go do judo because you're tearing down the house. Judo wasn't wasn't too enough for me, so they put me on cycling, and cycling really caught me. And from I think from 12, 13 years old, I've been a cyclist. I've been an amateur cyclist. I've been an amateur pro cyclist, what you call continental pro now. That was my level. I had a lot of fun in cycling until I had some heart problems. I had problems with my heart muscle, which was too thick and was creating its own heart rhythm when I was not doing sports. So I had to stop cycling for a year. At that point, I was riding for a company called Koga Miata, Dutch/Japanese bike company, and I started working for them. So I stepped out of racing and started working for that bike company as a high-end bike mechanic. And that's where I really stepped into the bike industry. I was 17, 18 years old. So, yeah.
How did you learn to be a mechanic? Was that something like, did you tinker at home? Did your father bring you into
Yeah.
the store and
Yeah,
like,
well, my father always thought gave me father was never some money about, giving kids pocket money just like that. You had to do something to earn money, especially if you want to have, I don't know, you want to have a new Game Boy or you want to have a new tool or a computer or whatever. A Commodore 64, that was my time. When I
right?
wanted that, my father said you gotta earn the money. So he gave me washing machines to repair. He said, there's washing machines from people coming in. They need to be repaired. You know what to do. They need new bearings. They need new rubber seals, all that stuff. Per washing machine, you will get 10 guilders. What's like €5 for now. That's how I made my first money, and that's how I bought my first racing bike and my first computer and all that kind of stuff. So by earning it, by my father putting me to work in his company, fixing the washing machines. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've always been pretty kind of technical. You've always been curious about technology.
Yeah, exactly. Because you make mistakes and it's mechanical and you see where you can improve things. Then while riding my bike, you ride your bike, you become a cyclist. You spend like 20 hours on the bike a week, if not more, just by training because racing is a short period of time you do during the year and most of the time you're just training, you're by yourself. So gives you the opportunity to think about what you can improve on the bike. Your handlebar breaks. Well, how would you improve it? Your wheels are not strong enough. You start screwing your own wheels and see where the material breaks. Your butt hurts because the saddle doesn't work for you. You try 20 different saddles and they all don't work. So you think there's something wrong with you instead of trying to improve the product in another way. So you're very much connected with the product. And if you're a technical person thinking about products or thinking about solutions, you become intrigued with the product that you use. And that's how I kind of got into, yeah, trying to improve the product of on the bicycle. Yeah.
So you're saying as you were riding and having this background in tech, sort of being exposed to repair and things like that, that kind of brought you to looking at a bike in a different way. And I guess I like fixing things. I've always been a really technical person, but I never thought that I would be able to, make an impact on products that I use. What made you feel empowered to do that? Was it working with this, maybe starting to work with this brand like Koga and being exposed to all that? Is that kind of how you got to the point where you felt like you could do this? Because I see you did work for Koga for a while, and then you went and
Yeah.
worked with BH, and you worked for a few different companies, a few different
Yeah.
manufacturers in the
Yeah.
Netherlands. So, I mean, you were in the business as an employee for years before you went out on your own. So, I guess what were you
Yeah.
doing? Like, did you always have this idea that you wanted to build something on your own, or did this develop slowly over time?
It kind of develops slowly over time because, at that age, you don't really know what you're going to do when you're 50 years old, what I'm right now. So the idea of what your capabilities could be also develop in your head over time. You push the bar a little bit further and further and further. That doesn't mean that you have a plan on doing that and becoming that. In my case, I really at Kogamiata sometimes, you go to the product department if you're a mechanic and they say, hey, this is wrong. How would you improve it? Well, the door opens of the product department and those people let you in because they want to answer your question. And from answering questions, you learn about what their job is and what they do. And they think about things, they take your feedback and your input and they improve the product. They go back to their vendors or they do it themselves, depending on what kind of company you're landed into. But that triggers the technology, and for me, it triggers to make new stuff and to improve it. And you also find out what is real and what is not real, because sometimes the complaint is there, but you have to find out if there is a complaint about a product. Am I right or am I not right, or am I using the product correctly or incorrectly? Because that's in many cases that's the thing. Not everything that goes wrong is because the product is wrong. It's also sometimes because the implementation of the user is wrong, or the user experience is not connected to what the product is made for. All those things you learn, and it interacts your brain with possible solutions, but also drives you into the correct direction of thinking. Yeah.
And I think this sort of dawned on me today talking with you is the fact that cycling is niche, international, and for the most part, the companies are relatively small compared to other
Mhm.
industries. This allows curious people like you to see every part of the process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where you're
Correct.
just right there with the product managers, and I think that's been the case pretty much everywhere,
Yeah. Everything's at arm's
90% of the
length, right?
companies, right?
Yeah. Everything's in arm's length.
Exactly,
Everything's
exactly.
close. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's why
That would
people,
never happen in a car company or a tech company. No.
no way,
No.
no
No.
way.
Yeah.
Not many industries do that. I mean, consumer products, especially even like on the sales side, it's like, you've got distributors, you've got dealers, but everything is pretty much at arm's length. Where if you go into, I don't know, you think about like soft drinks or something like that,
Yeah.
you've got Walmart on one side and Carrefour, and then you've got the production, and it's just
Yeah.
it's a
It's a
massive.
it's a good and a bad thing, Wyatt, because it helps us, but it also drives against us. Because right now we see, especially the last 5 to 7 years, there's been a lot of outside companies investing in the bicycle industry that are from those industries, from cars or from tech, and they have a different approach. And they sometimes look into the bicycle company as a green opportunity to greenwash whatever they're doing in cars or in oil products or whatever. So they invest in cycling, and they like to apply their business model or their business ethos or thinking into a bike company, and they triple. They go down, they fall on their nose, and they have to learn how the bicycle industry works, because of this tight knit information, or let's say market knowledge, or let's say bicycle industry knowledge is so small. It's not commonly shared, and it stays within a certain group of people that know that.
Sure.
So trying to get in and let's say let's do this better. We're from a bigger industry, we know how to do this. Doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. It takes time to learn from them, from us. So and that's how you see, there's a lot of bike companies that find out how that worked, and now are adapting to it and are successful. But most of them that step in from the outside have to learn a lot, and they don't understand why the bicycle seems to be, oh, it's just a bicycle. How difficult can it be? And that's the assumption where most of them waste time, a lot of time and money. Yeah.
Can I'd also like to add to that there is a certain amount of patience in the bicycle industry. I don't know how I can say this, that since it's a passion industry, since it's really driven by something that people do as a passion, and the people
Yeah.
that work in the industry do it as a passion, that I mean, we can call it's a sexy industry in a sense that it's like, it's sustainable, it's cool that there's entrepreneurs and that are actually willing, and you can push back on me if you'd like, but entrepreneurs are also willing to withstand a little more pain than in other potential industries
Yeah,
where they think
yeah,
about it in a more rational and mathematical way, where in cycling people are willing to maybe weather a storm or accept a little less profits because they know that at the end of the day, to be in the bicycle industry is a gift, and we're lucky to be in it.
yeah. True, true. Absolutely, that's true. That's true. And you see that, Wyatt, you see that a lot into the, the left and right startups. You see a lot of startups with all these websites that raise money for their projects. You see projects that raise 50 million, 100 million, 150 million. They get subsidized greatly because they can sell a project really well. And if you can sell a project really well on whatever those websites are called, you can raise a lot of money. The point is, most of those people have no idea how to execute their projects. They don't know how to make a bike. They don't know the industry, and they don't know many times they don't know how to do business. They just know how to sell a project and raise money. And it's beyond me that I see company X from country X that raised 74 million euros 3 years ago go bankrupt.
That's
Just
crazy.
just trying to make one bike. Say, oh, really? How can you do that? Where did the money go? Well, they hired 200 people try and execute the project on something that I would use 3 or 5 people for. And the difference is knowledge against somebody that needs to learn this. That learning curve is what a lot of people don't understand. And if they see a cool project, that goes live somewhere, they go like, oh yeah, let's put 100,000 in this. This is awesome. Wow, I wish I had those people around me that say, "Hey, I like the brand, what you're doing, Pete. Here's 10 million. I can turn 10 million into a successful brand with with a turnover of maybe 30, 40 million. But, if I don't know anything and I go into the tech industry and say I'm gonna make a foldable telephone that's this big, and when you unfold it, it's this big. Just believe my project and give me 100 million. I'm not gonna be successful.
Right. So people maybe
No
have
way.
underestimated, in your experience, that perhaps in this post-COVID kind of boom, even
Yeah, yeah,
pre-COVID,
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
that some people underestimated the complexity
yeah,
of the business.
yeah, it
I
is. Yeah, it's extremely complex, and it's because it's so small and it's all connected between X number of factories or suppliers. Everybody knows, and it's a merry-go-round. You meet everyone again and again and again. Yeah,
just want to take a minute and let you guys know that in addition to the work that I do on the Business of Cycling podcast, I also do e-commerce consulting for cycling brands. I've helped numerous brands in the industry get double-digit growth while maintaining harmony with the distribution network. So if your e-commerce or Amazon sales are underperforming and you're looking to optimize, just drop me a line and we can look things over together. You can find me at Wyatt@velomedia.io. That's Wyatt@velomedia.io. Now let's get back to the show. So I guess let's jump back into, so you had this professional kind of path where you worked for a number of years in a few different companies, important companies. You said looks like you were at Cannondale for a while, WTB, which does tires and rims.
saddles they do as well.
Velo, which Velo I've been trying to reach Anne, or I spoke with Anne. She doesn't feel
Hmm.
comfortable yet speaking with me, so I'm trying to reach her. Her mom, she didn't feel comfortable. Her English, isn't great, so I wasn't able to get her. But I was trying to talk with her daughter, but she didn't feel comfortable yet. Maybe in a couple months we can talk, but we'll see. Anyway, so you
They're
worked
great
with a.
people, by the way. They're
I
really
I
worth talking to. They're
I
great
know.
people.
I
Yeah,
know. I'm
yeah,
very excited because they've done a lot for the business, and
yeah,
and they're a big part of the saddle industry as a
yeah.
whole. So I guess maybe we can talk about, you're moving and you're helping with, it looks like projects, product,
Hmm.
you get into product. When did you begin to think that maybe you wanted to do something on your own?
Basically, when I related to you needed like 1,000 weeks of experience before you can actually get the feeling that you're not afraid of doing something like that anymore. If you have 1,000 weeks of experience, which is, what is it, little less than 20 years, into doing something, you're doing it by nature and not by guess or you're not shooting by the hip. It's not a belly thing anymore. You do it by nature and you're coming across as real, as true. I mean, if I do that happened to me is, I mean, if I want to make a saddle or a tire or a wheel, I do that because I know how to do it, and I don't see the risk because I don't feel a risk. And at that point, you've arrived in the know in what you're doing, and it feels like, yeah, it's the right time to do it. If I would have tried to do that 5 or 10 years earlier, it would have been a gamble. Now it's a natural thing to do, and if you're an entrepreneur or you're a developer and you always have the need or the hunger to improve something, when you're working for a boss, and I've worked for several bosses in Specialized Cannondale, Velo, you name them, they're always telling you, well, this is what I want you to do because this is the target we want to reach. And some bosses say how you do it. Most of them say how you do it, I don't care. But when you're doing it, they're always on the back of you, on the shoulder, saying, hey, no, no, I really like it a little bit more this, or I like it a little bit more that, or I like it like this. Or the problem is that it never becomes 100% your own products. You always have to adjust to the idea of the person who's giving you the opportunity to make the product. But there's always someone that knows better than you. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I've gotten a lot of advice from company owners that were absolutely perfect. I learned a lot from that, but I've also had a lot of advice or direction given to me that were absolutely wrong that I knew, listen, if we do this, it's not gonna fly, and it didn't fly. So imagine yourself a situation or a world where nobody tells you what to do. And you can actually make your own mistakes and make your own success. Because you have to make success to be sustainable, but you also have to make mistakes in order to keep learning from them. But you know, most entrepreneurs will tell you don't make mistakes. I want everything to stick because I don't want to lose money. And that's not how it works. So
No, absolutely not.
uh,
That's the only way you learn.
that's the only way you learn. But try to tell that to an entrepreneur putting money into a project beforehand.
Right.
I've once had a lesson from the founder of Nike, Mr. Knight. He came to us and he said, "Listen, my engineers, product department, have to fail in at least 50 or 60% of their projects, and that's a big margin given to a product department. That's a very big margin because if you allow them to fail a 50, 60%, one, they're not afraid to fail that much, so they take more risk into what they do, and in giving creative people more risk and opportunity is wonderful because then they actually go that they don't think they think limitless. They don't think about the risk. So they come up with absolutely stupid things, but they all also come up with, the next great design that nobody even thought of. And it's all about for a
Sure.
creative person to take away those boundaries and have them think like that. But bringing those boundaries back in limits their chance of thinking and success. And that's the worst thing you can do to a creative department, is giving them limits. So
But Pete, cycling is typically really conservative, family-owned businesses
yeah,
and entrepreneurs that, don't want to burn cash.
yeah,
So I don't
absolutely.
know what you're telling me. I get it, but how do we have all these small businesses in cycling if they're so conservative?
I think I think it if you look at all the product, it doesn't really matter which category you take. If you take a mountain bike wheel, a road racing saddle, or a tire, and you will look at what the product is today, I would say 90%, 95% of the product is very relatable, very much the same. And it might be a different color, it might be different, I don't know, a different material, whatever it is. As soon as brand X brings out a new design, as soon as I've had this done to me many times. If I bring out a product that's really, let's say, out there, that's ahead, I have very big companies following me the next six
Immediately.
to 12 immediately following me, creating, copying my design.
Right.
It's pain in the ass, but it's also a compliment that they think what I'm doing is going well. But 90 to 95% of the whole industry is the same product you know, without being able to distinguish themselves. And that's also the biggest problem brand-wise. I mean, how
Sure.
do I how to differentiate, let's say, 5 or 6 mountain bike brands from each other, or 10 road bike brands, or 50 city bike brands? I have to come up with either a really good different product or a different design and or a different brand story. Those are my three ingredients. And let's
Yeah.
not talk about the price and the quality because everybody's fighting in the same realm. Everybody has control over their quality and their price. So that's not a, that's yeah, that's nothing special. If you
So
can differentiate
there's a bit of
between
a follow the leader
a lot, there's a lot of that.
mentality.
Yeah, because if I make a product that sticks, everybody wants a piece of it. And I also look at that other people like, hey, what you're doing is a good product, but I don't want to copy you. If you're on the right track with your brand X product, I can think I can surpass you, and that's my challenge as a product guy. I need to surpass the guy that has the best product today,
Right.
because surpassing is winning. Making better product is just staying in the pack. I don't want to stay in the pack. I want to try to win with the product. Yeah.
And so you saw these opportunities. You said to yourself, I've seen, first of all, you wanted I think there's the 10,000 hours concept. You wanted to have a baseline of knowledge before you went out. And that's a really wise thing to do. I'll admit, I'm much more, me personally, I'm much more fly by the seat of my pants. Who taught you to have respect for the trade and to have so much to tell yourself, I'm not going to do this until I'm ready? Like, is that something you just kind of were born with, or is that something that someone taught you?
No, I went through all those years of experience. I mean, I've been in this industry since I was 17. I'm now 51. So it's a lot of years of learning and going flat on my face, crashing, getting up and learning from that. Of course, there's a lot of people in the industry that I learned from. I mean, there's Morgan Nickel, there's Stella Yu, there's Mike Singer, there's Mr. Bigolin. There's a lot of people that I was happy to connect with and that taught me a lot, or that gave me the opportunity to learn from them. So from that, yes, learn a lot, but also making a lot of mistakes and learning from that. I mean, if you don't learn from your mistakes, I mean, there's you gotta look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and say, what am I doing here? So,
Right.
and I
But
don't want to have that.
your career, it seems really healthy in a sense that I'm seeing, you spent at least a couple, 2, 3, 4 years at every company, all very strong players in the industry. So it looks like you built this really strong base for yourself in terms of understanding the business. And then
Mhm.
when did you say to yourself, okay, now I'm ready. I want to start what became ERE?
Yeah, yeah. That was about 7 years ago. I think 2017 we started, April 2017 we started ERE. And that was also, I've worked for so many, I've made saddles for so many companies. I've made saddles for Pro, for Logo, for Velo, for Specialized, for Trek, for Rafa, for Colnago, Pinarello, and then for Selle Italia, Selle San Marco, and then to make another saddle brand is like I I need something new. I'm ready to start my own brand, and I don't want to do saddles because I've done so many saddles. So, and then the opportunity came to make a tire, a road racing tire, because there was a factory that was interested in making new tires, and or stars, let's say, temporarily aligned on that goal. Because to me, a tire, especially a road racing tire, is sold as a black rolled up sausage with a price on it on the sheet, and it has to be cheap.
So
That's
you've,
that's how people that's how people
right,
look at tires. They're a really uninspired, inspirational product that
just a
is hard to
commodity,
sell.
a
It's a
commodity.
commodity
Yeah.
product, so why not take a product like that and make something completely new out of it? Give it new life, and it's actually the ultimate challenge to do something like that. And that's we were just entering the period where road
Tubeless.
racing tires were made tubeless, and it
Right.
was a problem. It was a big problem because there were no standards, right? There was no road wheels from Shimano company or SRAM or Zip or whatever you call it. that had tubeless rims, dedicated tubeless rims. Everybody just did their own thing, and the tire makers just had to make tires to fit all those wheels. And of course, it didn't fly. One combination of tires and wheels worked perfectly together, the other one didn't. And the we were getting phone calls, all the wheel and the tire brands were getting phone calls or emails or complaints like, your product isn't working. And this guy would point to that set of rules, and
The
that guy would
wheel,
point to that
yeah,
set of rules.
yep.
And it's
And
like
the
it's a
tire
big
guy would
mess.
point to the wheel guy, and the wheel guy would
Yeah,
point to the tire
exactly.
guy.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see there's a technical opportunity there to make it work, to make a better product. And that's what we did. We first made the tire, and then we made the wheel, and then combination worked together, gave us opportunities to make better materials, to dive into rubbers, to dive into rim shapes, to look at aero, all that kind of stuff, which is it's fun to do. Yeah.
Now, coming at it, I'm not a product guy, and coming at it from, just looking at it from the outside, did you see a hole? I mean, you're talking about how the market was underserved from a
Mhm.
technical standpoint and from a standard standpoint. Did you also see a hole in the market for perhaps like a higher end tire? Did I understand that correctly as well?
Yes, there is, because there is when you're bringing a new technology back then, tubeless road tires, what they did, they made it, they took in order to make that tubeless system work, they added a lot of weight and a lot of material to the tire, which basically took the performance of the tire down. I
Right.
mean, a road racing tire, it needs to be flexible, it needs to have grip, and in order to have the right user experience. I mean, you don't wanna ride on a garden hose tire, plastic tire, because it has a low rolling resistance. No, when you're going downhill with 80, 90 kph, you want to have grip in the corner. And if it's not there, tubeless tires don't really matter, because nobody wants to ride a tire that doesn't work. So in order to first to tackle the technology so it works, so the tubeless system works, is one thing. Then to go back and to make it perform again is another. And that forces you as a product developer to create new technology, or to find new technologies or materials in order to bring that performance part back again into the product. And that doesn't start at the top at that point in the tires. No.
And is this sort of a microcosm of what ERE stands for?
Yeah, more or less. We go after the deep research into a product, if it's needed, if it's there. I mean, not every product you have to develop down to the bone in order to make it the best product in the world. I mean, I can throw 200-300 hours into a tire lever, but the only thing it really needs to do is to take the tire off a rim. So why
Right.
would I make that a Ferrari product? It doesn't need to be. So the opportunity needs to be identified. It needs to be there. So, and if it's there, and if I identify an opportunity in terms of improvement, it doesn't matter if it's design, technology, innovation, new materials that don't exist yet. We go after it and research it deeply, because the last thing we want to make is Me Too product. We don't make Me Too
No, I
product.
get it. I get it.
Doesn't,
And that,
yeah,
so I guess I'm thinking ERE from your standpoint is constantly searching to improve products. You
yeah,
are a premium brand,
yeah, absolutely.
definitely a premium brand for performance and enthusiasts. Is that a
Yeah,
fair statement?
that is a fair statement. Yeah, absolutely. Because we want to make the product available for let's say the sports or the weekend warrior that can benefit from whatever the top is developing. And that's the way it should be. I mean, technology should be available for everyone, I
It's
think.
not a commodity. You're not making commodities. Absolutely.
No, we're not making a mass product, because also that consumer's not interested in what we're doing.
Right. And
Yeah,
so your place in the market after years of working has been essentially to go in to find areas that can be improved and
yeah,
apply your
yeah,
knowledge to that. How
yeah.
to start a company. And I can see that you're very confident in how to make these products, how to find what the market needs and how to execute it.
Mhm.
What has been your experience though starting a company?
Starting a company has been, I've had a company, my own private company, let's say, because I did projects for other people. I always had that on paper. But to actually start a company, opening the doors of an office and start a company with employees and with stuff going in, going out,
Warehouse,
That's the
bills,
warehouse,
payroll.
all that kind of stuff. That's been a challenge, of course, for me because that wasn't my forte at all. And luckily, I try to outsource as much of that stuff as I can. I don't want to be the CEO running a company. I want to do what I do best, and that's create a product with my product team. So if there's warehousing to be done or order fulfillment or let's say all that payroll work, I outsource as much as I can on that stuff. I don't mind paying a professional to do his professional job because I have to identify what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and I know that very well. So you'll never see me, yeah, let's say doing all that work and in meetings pointing to the rest of the team, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do that. No, I already have people to do that because they know how to do that in a professional way. So I don't teach myself to do that so I can focus. Because the worst thing that can happen to me is just to play boss in a company that I create product for and defocus myself on the thing that I'm good at.
Right. Where you
That's
create the most
yeah.
value.
Yeah, where I create the most value, and that's where I have to step back and say, listen, let me do my job. The reason that I started this company is because I think I can do this job very well. And if I do that, then we're all golden. And let somebody else worry about how much coffee there needs to be in the kitchen, you know. So
So I just wanted to take a minute and let you guys know that in addition to the work that I do on the Business of Cycling podcast, I also do e-commerce consulting for cycling brands. Over the course of the last 10 years, I've helped numerous brands in the industry get double digit or more growth while maintaining harmony with the distribution network. So if your e-commerce or Amazon sales are underperforming and you're looking to optimize, just drop me a line and we can look things over together. You can find me at wyatt@velomedia.io. That's wyatt@velomedia.io. Now let's get back to the show. And so to make this company function, I presume you have a warehouse in the Netherlands.
we have a big warehouse in the Netherlands. We outsource that. It's in Rotterdam. It's right where the containers come in for the European business.
Okay.
So we have in a container port we have a warehouse that we source from. So that's very convenient. That's also where our quality of marketing and sales is located and our service and warranty. Then we have another, let's say, entity in the east of the Netherlands. I'm from the east of the Netherlands, from Ommen, and that's where we have R&D units where we have sitting here with 4 people doing the R&D. Yeah.
Product.
So there's 2 offices. Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
your warehouse, which is outsourced. You don't own that.
Yeah, that's right.
You have product that's coming in from production, I presume, mostly in the
Yeah.
Far East or
Mostly in the, well, so we have Far East production, we have European production, depends where it is.
okay.
Some stock we keep in Asia, some stock we have in Europe and the Netherlands. We're thinking about we actually opened a entity in Houston, Texas as well. And we're planning to in the future to have probably stock in the US as well. But that's what we're just starting up now. So
Okay. So I guess from a higher level, the sales side, I presume you have a sales manager and you
yeah.
guys are working mostly with distributors or OEM or what, how is that broken
Uh,
down?
we are an aftermarket brand, as we say. We make service products, so we need to make sure that our service is well set up. That's why we work with distributors around the world. We have about 30 distributors now worldwide
Hmm.
that deliver, of course, to all the dealers that give service to our product. OEM, we have some small OEMs, we have some small niche OEMs with or niche brands which fit us really well. We don't chase the big OEMs at the moment because our production is 100% capacity,
Sure.
and just to open more production for OEM at the moment, I don't think that's profitable yet. Although I see a future where OEMs might scale back on their own product that they're making now. I mean, we all know that the big bicycle companies make their own tires, make their own wheels, make their own saddles,
Sure. And they can.
but but the can part is getting less and less. I mean, right now you see that those big companies are firing a lot of people all around the globe, so their product teams are getting smaller and smaller. I already had some OEM companies asking me, "Hey, we're not going to make our own wheels anymore. Can you either accept a project from me on wheels or, you know, which means that they would like to outsource something like that, or they want to buy wheels again from somebody like me or from Mavic or from fulcrum, who knows, you know?
Well, ERE is an ingredient brand. That's like a whole nother that's a whole nother project, it sounds like. And
Yeah,
you said the word upgrade or you said the word aftermarket. I like to say the word upgrade because it kind of encapsulates the work that you're doing. So you're saying that mostly what your products are targeted for OE aftermarket. So someone
yeah,
that wants to upgrade their product to make it more
yeah,
performing, that's the
yeah,
target you guys have. So an average ERE customer will come into a store and say, man, I'd really like to upgrade this component on my bike. ERE is there to give the options based on the research and based on the product
yeah,
that you guys have made. Is
correct.
that a fair assessment
Yeah,
of what
yeah,
you
that's
guys are
correct.
today?
That's correct. That's correct. And you've also asked if we were doing OEM, and but we're an aftermarket brand with added value to the bike. If the bike comes in and it needs the replacement wheels, we'd like to be the one serving that customer with the replacement wheels or tires or saddles. Absolutely true. And then our technology and our design comes into play where we need to show the customer why they need to choose for us. And I need to be able to say this and this and this is the reason you
Sure.
need to choose for our brand, because you know as very well as me, there's like 1,000 wheel brands out there at the moment. Anybody can buy a rim, a spoke, and a hub and create a name and have a wheel brand, right? So why would they buy my wheels or my tires or my saddles? I really need to do a good job into explaining that.
And you're talking about the competition in a sense that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are competing with other wheel brands, other aftermarket wheel brands, but you're also
yeah,
competing with the OEM product that is
yeah.
shipped with the bikes from the factory
Yeah,
because you're
exactly.
saying
Yeah.
this
That's
is
a
my
that,
different.
that's a big thing. And since the sales world, the sales spectrum is so divided and there's so many options, the pizza gets eaten by so many people, and you really have to do a good job. I mean, where you got away with 15, 20 years ago with making a good job on a brand, that marketing doesn't fly anymore. It becomes really tough out there. And a lot of that is on relationship. I mean, you sell by relationship. People, let's say they want to give you the business because they like you as a person, or they like your technology, or they're buddies. That goes a long way. But I can't live. I can't create a company or a brand just by friendliness. I really need to have hard facts to state why they need to buy my product.
Right. And that's where it sounds like you guys are investing in telling a story, investing in terms of distribution. What are some of the areas that you feel like are important for you and for ERE in terms of distribution? You want to be in like key accounts or how are you thinking about that?
Well, in order to make sure that whoever you work with can deliver good service, you need to judge them based on their capabilities on that. I mean, there's many distributors that want to buy a product, but then when we investigate or we review them, it seems that then you know they're not always a good fit. So they need to make sure that they can service your product. Of course, you don't count on every product to be serviced. You really want to make good product, and you never want to have give service, because that means just if you need to service every product, you made a bad product, right? But when it happens, the customer needs to be satisfied. So of course, we look at if a distributor is carrying other brands that maybe don't conflict too much with our brands, because we don't want to be, let's say, tire brand number 6 in a distribution company. We'd like it to be tire brand number 1, because then we know that the focus is on our product. So a distributor, of course, gets judged on how much product they sell in comparable categories. They get judged on their service capabilities. How is their marketing set up? You really pay attention to who you work with and how do they do online. In the past we've seen many brands that have been destroyed by price online, and the brand value went from here to here because of that. And that's because nobody really was watching. The brand in question is just selling to everybody who wants to buy,
Sure.
and let the market fight it out,
Right.
only to discover after 5 years that all of a sudden the brand has no value anymore. There's a reason for that. If you don't nourish your brand in the market on all levels, whether that be marketing, sales, sports marketing, product, whatever it is, it's gonna walk away from you.
So you're very attentive about the capabilities of your distribution partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes they're young, and sometimes they're old companies. Sometimes, we take them by the hand. So listen, this is how we would like to help you to improve that part of your process. And we also learn from them, huh? Because they also tell us, hey, listen, ERE Research, if you guys do this, this, and this way, it might solve a lot of problems. So we're absolutely not only sending, we're also receiving from the market on how to improve ourselves, because that's what ERE Research is. We need to learn from the markets and take that research and improve ourselves.
And service is an important part of that because your products, that's not something that you guys do directly.
We do for consumers that buy sometimes from us directly. We need a
Okay.
service directly, of course, because if you buy something from our website,
Right.
I mean, my relation is to the consumer. If the consumer has a problem, then
Sure.
I need to take care of it.
Right.
But if it's sold through a shop, through a distributor, then that part goes to the local distributor, which is also sometimes, when I'm not going to service. It's not smart for me to service a consumer from Australia. It's much
Right.
better
No, absolutely not.
to do that
To do
locally.
that
So
locally.
yeah.
So I guess in your experience, it sounds like you mentioned that you like to outsource, rightly so, the things that you don't necessarily have a ton of experience at. But it
Mhm.
does sound like you do, as the owner, as one of the owners, do have a high level in knowledge and understanding of, like we're talking about now, the
Mhm.
distribution, sales strategy.
Yeah.
So you're doing, I suppose, a majority of your time is done researching the product because that's what you know. And then in the other
Yeah.
at other times you're working with your accounting person, your salesperson,
Yeah.
your service person, and you're just getting high level updates to make sure that the company is kind of steering in the right direction. Am I describing that
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah. That's correct. Because if the how do you say, the key to being successful, I think, as a head of a company, is that you cannot know everything about your company in full detail to have the give the right judgment upon a question or a matter or an issue. But you have to know enough to to confidently steer in the right direction. And I've gone through all these stages in my career, in sales, in marketing, in sports marketing, being an athlete, being a consumer, being the technical guy. I know enough of all of that to confidently say to someone, give them let's say an answer of value. And that's very important to have that experience in order to able to do what I do, to steer and create. If I know enough of everything I feel confident to do that. I cannot be a CEO of a company and give the design department a good advice if they come to me with a design question. I can't, because if I don't know enough of that, I'll just give them an answer because of whatever it is, because I'd like to or because my ego tells me to.
Sure.
That's a problem. So, and I've seen it in many companies where an owner steps into a department. Well, it doesn't matter if it's the testing department, the design, or the finance, because they feel like they are the owner, they want to steer the wheel sometimes, or they yank at the wheel. And that's where the most frustration comes from in the departments under the CEO, is because the CEO is yanking the wheel, but he doesn't know why, because he's doing that because he feels like it, and he wants to give value to himself as the CEO,
Or feel
and it
control. It's sort of a
or
human
feel
instinct.
control, and he wants to do that. Well, it's actually I think it's best to realize that if you're not the right guy, hands off the wheel.
How do you
Uh,
how do you empower these people in your company that work with you? How do you make sure that they feel empowered? And how do you keep yourself, because you're an owner and it's your
yeah,
money and it's your
yeah,
baby, how do you keep yourself in check? Because I know lots of I know lots of
yeah.
CEOs and I know lots of owners, and it doesn't, I mean, you're talking about it, but I think the human instinct is to want to control things. How do you keep yourself in check and how do you empower the people around you?
By listening to the people around me and have them explain why they do certain things or why they
Okay.
do want to do things. So take the time to get the explanation and really identify if it's a true story or if people are trying to, have little battles in the company. You're like, I want to be right. No, I want to be right, and I don't like him. So take the personal stuff out. Always go down to the facts
To
and
the
make facts.
objective.
Yeah, to the objective, and and make factual and researched answers. So if the emotion is not needed in a conversation, leave it at the door, you know. So but that takes a lot of experience, and I am very happy that I've worked in three different cultures. I've worked in an Asian culture, the European culture, several European cultures actually, and in the US culture. And from those cultures you learn the most, and has nothing to do with your work or with the product. If you learn about how people react and how people are, you can kind of judge on how to work with people. I mean, from someone from Asia or from Italy or from France or from Denmark or from Holland or from California, they react completely different into the same question, and they decide how they take the question. If I send them all the same question, I get 10 different answers, but they decide how they implement the question to them. So I need to know how to ask the same question in 10 different ways. So it's a lot about culture in that way, learning about people, learning about culture. And don't ever feel like if I have to say in my company, I'm the boss and I want this, I
Something's
lost my
wrong.
position.
Yeah,
I saw,
something's wrong.
yeah, I lost my position immediately. So no, can't work like that. So,
And you said that you've got about 10 employees. You said 10 employees
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
And it sounds like, the sales side is more, you probably have an internal sales team, but that is delegating a lot to your distribution partners. You
mm,
have, I presume, an accounting team, a logistics team, and then probably the biggest part is your product team.
yeah. Biggest
Um,
part is product and marketing with us, and most of the rest we outsource.
and
Try to stay as lean as possible.
are you doing the marketing or is someone else doing the marketing?
Someone else is doing the marketing. Yeah, not me.
And so, being such a product centric company, how do you and marketing interact and how do you see that? Because it sounds like sales is you're sort of delegating it in a sense that you're sort
Yeah,
of
but in fact, it's product is marketing, marketing is sales. It's all one thing, right? We're trying to create something that we can sell.
right,
And if my head of sales is not aligned in what I do for product,
right.
I can tell him this is the best product in the world. You need to sell it. And he says, no, no, only red wheels sell. You give me yellow wheels. I can't sell that. To make him understand that the next thing after red wheels is yellow wheels, that doesn't fly because he doesn't have the experience and he doesn't see it. If I incorporate his thoughts into what we need and make him understand why I do things the way I do, he's able to sell it, but also marketing is able to execute it. So it becomes much more a product marketing sales driven effort in order to be successful. And that's what we need to do. I've been in so many companies, Wyatt, and you know what? After arriving the first 2, 3 months, and whether it be Sell Italia or Specialized or wherever it is, everybody thinks he's a product manager. Everybody thinks, they know something about the product because the good thing and bad thing about bicycle companies is there's so many cyclists in bicycle companies, and they all have an opinion on what this tire needs to do, or what that fork needs to do, or that derailleur should shift differently. And he asked 10 guys, they all have an opinion, and that's hard to deal and with sometimes because how do you tell a person that tire has to be that tire is the perfect tire in construction if you just had five flat tires and just you don't tell a person. You have people that have always flat tires and break wheels, and you have people that never have a flat tire or a broken wheel.
So you're
And
saying
it's
that you need to exclude these kind of anecdotes, personal,
yes,
and you need to listen
yeah,
to, I presume where you're going with it is you need to listen to what the market wants.
absolutely. And that's why I have to be in the market, in the center of the market. I can never be stick to my own company of my own no, because then I become just like everybody else, a company that drinks their own Kool-Aid and doesn't look outside. And that
Sure.
happens to a lot of companies. And the reason that sometimes that companies hire me is because I did a great project somewhere else. I had success somewhere else, and they want me to replicate that in their brand in the best. And I can only do that if they understand where I'm coming from.
Sure.
Because
And so when you're getting information from the market now, you're doing that by dialogue with the distributors, dialogue
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
trade shows,
yeah,
dialogue at any point in which, but that comes from the market, right? The product
yeah,
manager comes from the market, but that when there's innovation, then we get back to the discussion we had around, well, there's also gambles that you're going to take, right?
yeah, yeah. And the more knowledge you have, the less that feels like a gamble. But
Sure.
to somebody else looking at my product, when I bring something new out, they say, "Oh, that's a huge gamble. It's never going to fly." But when you ask me to explain myself, I can give you the reasoning why I did that, and they go like, "Oh, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense," or it doesn't. You know, I'm still not afraid to make a mistake, but I try to limit all of that as much as I can. So,
And then marketing is constantly dialoguing with you as from the product side and sales
yeah,
from the market side to
yeah,
create messaging and
yeah,
to create imagery
yeah,
that best
yeah,
describes and communicates
yeah.
what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I need to know that not only from sales and marketing, but also from shipping, also from sales, also from the packaging guy. I mean, we had a big effort 2 years ago to make 100% plastic-free packaging. Finally, today we can say, yes, we're 100% plastic-free on everything, all the packaging that we have. That's not easy, but I need to understand from the guy who's sourcing the materials and the boxes and I need to look at what other companies are doing in terms of packaging their product, whether that be, bath products or beauty products or cell phones. Need to learn from how they do it and need to learn from how we can improve our our packaging and our brand and in the bike industry in order to stay away from plastic. So yeah, many times it's about that product that you ride on your bike, but many times there's also a lot of other things that are involved with bringing the product to market. It's not always the product, it's always the also the support material to support the company and the product, bringing it to you in your hands. Yeah.
So instead, you
And we
mentioned that you,
don't we don't outsource that. We do all that in-house. So
okay.
yeah, of
So you mentioned that you have a strong, it sounds like you have a strong presence in Europe.
course,
Are
yeah.
you, and you mentioned earlier that you are beginning some efforts in the USA.
Yeah, we're planning to do that the upcoming year. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
USA is, from what I understand, an incredibly difficult market. How are you guys going to approach that? And again, if you feel like this is proprietary, if this is something you don't want to
Um,
discuss, that I'm totally fine
no,
with
it's
that.
not. It's actually not. I've lived in the US for about 5 years, 4 years and 8 months. So I have a good understanding on how Americans, experience their product, buy their products. I've been in the bike industry there. I think for a European company to do that well, you have to do it yourself. You have to control it yourself. You have to build it yourself with American people, with Americans, because they know their market much better locally than I do. But you have to do it yourself self as an entrepreneur. You have to be in control of your own company. I've seen many brands, European brands being imported in the US. Usually that goes okay for a while, 1, 2, 3 years, but it never lasts. I mean, name me one company from the European bike scene that is successful in the US for the last 10 years or 15 years with the same distributor. Can't find them. At
It's
least
a
not in
merry,
my.
it's general, the data tells you that it's always kind of a merry-go-round.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a reason for that. And I think if you want to create consistency with the same dealer network, because we have a service product, you have to do it yourself. You have to
Sure.
sometimes say, no, we're not doing this because it's good for you. We're doing this because it's good for the market. Because the difficulty there is that we as Europeans, we have all our countries with our 20 different languages, with our 20 different cultures and our 20 different marketing approaches. Now we're entering a market where everything's the same. Same marketing, same language, mostly same cultures. Well, that's culture locally is also a little bit different sometimes, but that's a big difference. So we're basically doing a local business on a continental level. That's how we feel it. That scares away a lot of Europeans for doing it themselves, and then they
Well,
just
and
raise up their
and
hands and say, "Oh,
the
well,
thing
no,
about
well,
where do you start? That's another
Mhm.
thing that comes to mind. It's like, where do you even start in the
Where do
US?
you even start? Yeah,
Where do you even
exactly.
start?
Well,
It's so big. And yeah,
so
sure, there's a lot of money there. There's
oh,
more money than
then I can
anywhere in the
only
world.
then I can only give the example of Mike Senior from Specialized. I think it was 74. He imported some Italian bike parts. Mike just had first he had a cart behind his road bike, and he went in California to his local dealers and sold parts. And that cart behind his road bike became a VW van, so he could go a little bit further and created Specialized, which is this big company right now. So starting small locally, like a thick oil stain, is the way in the US. Don't try to kill the US immediately. Just,
Impossible.
land somewhere, do the local dealers, then do a little bit bigger region, and then do neighboring states, and that's how you grow the US. That's what I think is the best way to do it, because that's the way you can control it, and that's where you can ensure that the service that you want to provide as a brand and as a company, as a product supplier, is is something you can handle. What
And
if I go to the US, I put a bunch of stock there, and I tell everybody in the US, you can buy my product. So something goes to Alaska, something goes to New Mexico, something goes to Montana, and I'm trying to do this, not in a country like the Netherlands, but in a continent like the US. I'm creating trouble for myself.
right,
So
and there's something to be said. We're kind of getting into sales. There's something to be said about focusing on a geographic area to where the impact is can be focused. I mean, from events to online ads, focusing your online ads to a geographic area, to also being able to service in person, by visiting. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to do it that way. It's awfully seductive to just say, let's just go. We'll throw everything in there and see what
yeah,
happens, right? That's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
seductive.
That's the greed talking and the big money talking. But that lasts a short. I think lasts a short while. And yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, like I said, the Mike Singer example on how we did that is the best one, I think. And there's not only Mike, there's other companies that did a great job like that as well, like W2B or Pivot Cycle. So you can name them. But I think that's a business model starting small and slowly growing. That's how we built ERE Research. Small company,
Where
small
did you start
investment.
regionally in the Netherlands or
In the Netherlands,
yeah?
yeah, and in the Netherlands we did well on neighboring countries like Denmark, Belgium, Germany, and the UK. That's easy for us. It's short by. We can learn from that, and you're busy enough with doing that and trying to do a good job with your neighboring countries. Once you control that, okay, you start looking at Italy or France, Spain, and then Korea or Japan comes into play, or Australia. Don't try to overreach because of dollar signs in your eyes. That's the biggest problem, I think. You gotta stay modest in order to make a sustainable company, I think. Yeah.
When you first started, Pete, what was I mean, did you have some money? You said, I'm gonna put, 24
Mhm.
months of cash in the bank for me in case something happens. I'm going to put enough money aside to have this first shipment of product. Like, what did it look like when you first said, I'm done. I'm on my own. How did that happen? Because so I'm always really curious on the way that people approach that, and because it's scary to do that.
It's scary. Yeah, it's scary. It's you have to put in a great deal of money. You bring your own technology and your own knowledge, so you don't have to buy that. That's a big thing, right? But it takes a lot of money, and I put in some money of myself and some money of my investors, and we went from there. And
So you had investors initially where you were like, okay, here's the project. Here's what I
yeah,
think I need.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then it becomes a thing like you're starting off with some ideas or some targets, and you might make them and you might not make them. We were lucky that some projects went really well and offset the project that didn't go well. And that's why we're still around. I mean, the first 3 to 5 years of a company are, let's say, the lethal years. You're going to make it or you're not going to make it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Dangerous.
So dangerous. And we made it. and we're now going on April. It's going to be 8 years that we're around. Yeah, I hope to be able to, to give this company to my children maybe in 10 years and say, hey, Daddy is going fishing. Why don't you take over the company and, and try to do the same? So, so that's the thing, and it's been great. And like any company, it has its ups and downs business wise. I mean, we've had the COVID period, right? So that's been a big challenge for a startup company. I mean, how do you go into a period where it's difficult to sell and especially difficult to develop product because you're not able to travel, and for developing product you need to travel. That's a challenge. That's a challenge, but we got through it, and COVID also brought us some good stuff because sales did pick up in COVID for cycling,
Right.
and luckily we were one of the few companies that didn't overextend itself trying to trying to buy as much as we could. So we're not in trouble stock wise. We don't have
Well, you have a
old
really
stock. We have none
sounds
of
like
that
you have
stuff. So
a pretty lean operation in the
yeah,
sense that it's pretty agile and I
yeah,
presume that's by design because
yeah,
that way you guys are, you still are a very young company
yeah.
and definitely need to be agile. I really enjoyed speaking with you today, Pete. We're coming up on a little over an hour now.
Oh, okay.
I want
Yeah.
to
I can
respect
I
your
can keep
time.
talking. I can keep talking about this now.
Yeah, I maybe let's do another one maybe in a
Sure.
couple
Yeah.
months because I think I would love to dive into some of your experiences about, in the industry, et cetera. But yeah, this was really fun speaking. And I guess if people want to reach you, where's a good place to
Mhm.
find you?
Through personally through LinkedIn, pietvandervelde.com on LinkedIn, or ereresearch.com on our website. Ask me a question and it'll land on my desk if you ask for me. But yeah, feel free to approach me. I'm open to any question. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all research, man.
Yeah, it's all about, yeah, I mean, I can see your love for this industry is I haven't seen often really a knowledge and a reverence for the industry that you have. So I'm really glad we got to talk. I think people are going to really
Likewise.
enjoy hearing about
Well,
this.
thanks for the opportunity to talk. It's lovely to talk to you about these aspects of our business. So yeah, thank you for your time as well.
Okay. It was
Yeah.
great talking again.
All right. Thanks, Wyatt.
Bye-bye.